That's the biggest misconception that a lot of people have is like, soon as I stop eating chicken or fish, I'm going to all of a sudden develop a deficiency.
Yeah.
And so the only thing that doesn't come from a plant source naturally is vitamin B12, which, by the way, if your levels are already optimal, your body can store it for up to a year. So we recommend blood work informs your decision making about supplements. But that's the biggest misconception is that, oh my God, I'm not eating, animal products. I'm not eating eggs. I'm not eating dairy. So I'm not getting calcium. I'm not getting protein. All of that stuff comes from the plant. Like the animal is the middleman. The animal eats the plant and we eat the animal.
Yeah.
And so we're just taking out the middleman and going straight to the source. And so I would say people really believing that synthetic vitamins and supplements are the way to optimize your health when it's really eating whole real food and then letting your blood work determine if you need to add something else.
Optimal health is not a privilege, it's a right. However, unfortunately, the overwhelming majority of health challenges today can be attributed to lifestyle. This includes our physical activity, the quality of our relationships, stress, purpose and fulfillment, and of course, our diet. But what if there was an alternative? What if we could prevent and combat these health challenges with lifestyle changes before pills and procedures? You are listening to the Plant Protocol podcast with yours truly, plant-based health and business coach, and now the forever voice in your head, Lisa A. Smith. It's time to come get this health. Hey, what's up, mates? This one is for my UK family. I recently had the absolute pleasure of being interviewed on The New Black, a media powerhouse for Black Britain. And I was so blessed because the host asked me some phenomenal questions. Like what I love the most about doing interviews is I love when people prepare. And not just your average prepare, like, what industry are they in? Let me get some questions that fits that industry. But I mean prepare like they actually consume your content. They actually get to know you. They really get to know what you believe in and what you stand for. And they prepare interview questions and experience that ensures and encompasses all of what you do. And that's what they did for me. So what you're about to listen to is a replay of an interview that I recently did for The New Black, which is a media powerhouse out of Britain. And I am so thrilled to bring it to you guys. So please, please, please enjoy this episode. And thank you again to The New Black and Emmanuel and all the contacts over there for having me. And I can't wait to see you guys in person soon.
All right, people. Today's topic of the day is going to be based around an interview with an amazing, amazing woman.
Come on.
Right? Firstly, good morning, Lisa. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well. How are you?
Oh, come on.
Brent is excited.
Thank you so much for joining us and, bearing with me with the rescheduling and whatnot. And also staying up till 4 o'clock over there? 4 o'clock.
Yes, I've been up for 2 hours. It's 4 a.m. here. I've been up since 2 a.m., so I'm ready to go.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Well, let me give you the just due intro that you deserve, right? So, people, today we are joined by a woman who has dedicated her life to transforming the health and the mindset of our people. She's a transformational coach. She's a business strategist and the founder of a powerful wellness platform called the Plant Protocol, Radical Obedience, and also the Clarity Community.
Oh.
With over a decade of experience, Lisa helps individuals eliminate chronic stress, reverse lifestyle disease, and overcome limiting beliefs so that they can live with purpose, courage, and conviction. She's also the creator of several respected frameworks, which we're going to get into, including the trifecta of transformation, the H.E.R. method, the P.H.A.R.M method for eliminating the chronic stress, the BEST method, and also farm to table. Her holistic approach blends behavioral science, nutrition, and emotional intelligence to help people transform their lives from the inside out. She's also worked with major organizations such as Microsoft, Intel, Ford, and also the U.S. Veteran Affairs. And she continues to lead a movement focused on eliminating, not managing, eliminating chronic stress and extending the healthy life expectancy of Black communities. Family, please welcome the incredible, brilliant, beautiful, powerful Lisa Angel Smith.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Welcome.
Emmanuel team, thank you guys. It's a blessing to be here. Thank you for the wonderful intro.
No worries. All right, I guess the first question I want to ask you is about the stress thing, right? You said we shouldn't manage stress, we should eliminate it. How realistic is that? And what does that actually look like?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the question. So, we know that stress is one of the leading causes of chronic lifestyle disease and premature death, not just here in America, but worldwide, right? Especially the state and the nature of culture, politics, and everything for the last year or two. And what most people don't understand is how deadly stress is. But when I talk about eliminating stress, I'm specifically talking about chronic stress. So there's two types of stress. There's acute and then there's chronic. So acute stress is the type of stress that we can expect to have for the majority of our lives, right? There's going to be things that happen, there's going to be unexpected things, there's going to be loss. There will be a plethora of things that impact us. However, it becomes dangerous when it's chronic stress. So that means it's long term, it's not purposeful, it doesn't have an end date. Acute stress means unexpected things happen, it happens, or we're doing a project or we're planning a big event and it's kind of stressful. We can expect that type of stress. But the type of stress that kills is financial stress, relation stress, career stress, health stress that goes on for months and sometimes even years. And unfortunately, we've been taught to manage that type of stress. We're taught to just have a yoga practice or meditation practice or breathe or take a day off or self-care. When in reality, we need to be making bigger decisions about whether or not we're going to move forward in this relationship, whether or not we're going to create an exit strategy outside of this career, because we can take a day or a weekend off. But if that problem is still there Monday morning, we've only managed the situation, but we haven't done anything to correct it. And so chronic stress should be eliminated. Acute stress should be managed.
How does one, I guess, accurately make that distinction though? Because I guess acute stress could manifest itself in different ways and over prolonged periods of time. But chronic stress, I guess, would also have that time period. How do we make that distinction?
Oh, such a phenomenal question, Emmanuel. Okay, so y'all ready. Y'all been up longer than me, I see. Okay, so preparation is key. Okay, I love it here. Okay, so the number one way to tell whether or not you're dealing with chronic versus acute stress is your perception of it. So what that means is when you're thinking about the situation, when you're assessing the situation, is your focus on the circumstance itself or on your perception of what will happen if you make a decision within the circumstance? So let me give you an example. When we have relationship stress, for example, I have a lot of people in my community who are really struggling with being in unhealthy relationships, unhealthy marriages. And when we're thinking about and processing that situation and how we feel about the situation, are we focusing on the problem and what we can do about it? Okay, I need to propose, we have a conversation, or maybe we need to get into counseling, or maybe I really need to think about, leaving this, or do I want to work it out? Or is the majority of our focus on our perception of what will happen if we leave? I'm afraid I'm never going to find love again. I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to take care of myself without a second income in the household. I'm afraid the damage it'll do with my kids. And so when we start thinking about what could potentially happen if we make a tough decision, that means our focus has gotten away from the actual circumstance. And now we're focusing on all the fear and the emotions that comes up when we make tough decisions and make hard choices. And when you recognize that your energy is going towards being fearful of the unknown future, that's when acute stress graduates to chronic, because you're not willing to problem solve because you're so worried about what could go wrong, right? And so that's when things prolong, because when you're worried about what could go wrong, you don't make decisions, right? And that's when the stress stays long. Like when you get the intuitive pull to make a change in your relationship or make a change in your career, or you're dealing with a health challenge for a long time, it is in that moment that we should act. Most of the circumstances we're in that are stressing us out don't actually have to last as long as they do. It's just that we're so afraid to leave the job or plan an exit strategy from the job because we think there's no other way to make money, or we're going to lose, all the tenure and the credibility we've built up, and how will I be perceived? So we're focused on the wrong thing. We're worried about what people will think of us. We're worried about, shame. We're worried about losing it all. And when that becomes the focus, that's how you know the stress is becoming chronic because you're unwilling to make tough decisions or make hard choices because you're focused on the future and projecting fear onto the future versus focusing on the circumstance at hand. So it is that distinction that lets us know if I don't do something quickly, I'm going to look up 2 years from now and be miserable in my relationship. I'm going to look up 3 years from now and still be in a job where I don't feel purposeful and acknowledged. But because I was so afraid to start my own thing or seek a new position that made me feel fulfilled, now I look up and 3 years later, I'm miserable and I'm having all of these health challenges from being miserable in my career. And so that's how stress graduates to chronic stress.
I was going to ask actually. Yeah, I know that was a lot. I feel like I've probably had bouts of chronic stress in my lifetime, to be fair. But I was going to ask, like, how does this show up physically? Especially, well, for me, like for women, like how does that manifest itself?
Oh man. Chronic stress is so dangerous to our physical well-being because when our body is flooded with stress hormones, so that's our cortisol, our adrenaline, on a regular basis, like it happening in short spurts is healthy, right? Us getting a burst of cortisol because we're in a dangerous situation or we just got into a car accident or we just got some bad news, right? That's normal. That's our body sending a signal to our brain that there's danger somewhere and we need to pay attention to it and do something. So the stress response is a healthy mechanism. It becomes dangerous when we're just laying in bed at night, just thinking about the situation that's causing us stress. And that's happening day after day. We're just riding down the road and we're just thinking about the thing that we're afraid of. And our body is being flooded with these stress hormones, but the situation isn't changing. So when our body is flooded with stress hormones over a long period of time, that begins to cause cellular damage. That begins to cause hormonal imbalance. That is what raises blood pressure. That is what causes a unhealthy relationship with food. So now we're eating ourselves to disease. We're gaining weight, right? We're leaning on substances, smoking and drinking and drugs. And so the physical impact of prolonged stress cannot be understated. This is where we see cancer comes into play, right? We have anger, we have grief that is unresolved, we have things that we are unhealed from. And when we are constantly burdened by those things psychologically, it begins to cause literally cellular changes and molecular changes in the body because our body doesn't know that it's just a thought that's causing the danger. All it knows is that we're getting flooded with this stress hormone. So what that means is our immune system is compromised, our endocrine system is compromised. That's our system that controls our hormones. Our digestive system is compromised because when our brain believes we're in danger from all of the stress hormones, it begins to restrict blood flow. It pushes blood flow out to our arms and limbs and restricts it from the center of the body. It intentionally shuts down or turns the volume down on other systems in the body because it's like, we ain't got time for digestion right now. We ain't got time, for the immune system right now. There's stress hormones here. That means you need to be running from something. And so we're giving our body a signal that we're in physical danger when really we're just sitting at our desk mad, right? But because our body doesn't know the difference, it over time, that mechanism begins to cause cellular damage. And that's where we end up with diagnosis and disease.
Wow. So essentially, we're just constantly in survival mode.
Constantly.
Yeah.
You nailed it.
Yeah, it's so sad, man. Do you feel like
It
some
is.
of these things are unique to the Black community?
100%. Oh, 100%. We have a unique lived experience in this world, in the UK, in the US. We have a very unique lived experience. Do you guys know the term weathering?
When you weather the storm,
Have you heard
like
that term?
Do you mean like
we're in storm?
Yeah, like weathering,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
weathering the storm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's this term called weathering that essentially says there's this data that shows that just being a person of color I know it's true for America, I imagine probably for the UK as well. A person of color who is more educated, little higher on the socioeconomic ladder, has an expected shorter life expectancy strictly because of their lived experience of being Black.
Jesus.
Right. And so it is called weathering, which is all of the microaggressions, the racism, all of the inequality that we have to face as educated, experienced people of color. Because the higher you go, say in the corporate space, the less of people like you that you see. And so we have to take on all of these identities. And so all of the things that we have to deal with creates this thing called weathering, which means the more you have to navigate white spaces as a person of color or a person of a marginalized community, the less likely you'll live as long as the average person. So your life expectancy is compromised just from being a person of color in these unequal systems that we live in.
So basically, essentially, to kind of create our own institutions and things that can feed back into the community, we're literally giving our lives. We're literally sacrificing our lives.
That's crazy. And I think
100%.
also as well, like, because we don't necessarily look like our problem, right? Do you know what I mean? So I feel like we're under like a false sense of security. And like what you're saying, it's like if the damage is happening on a cellular level, we don't even know it's happening at the time.
You nailed it so well. You know, I was speaking in Atlanta, Georgia about 2 weeks ago, and they interviewed me after. And the interviewer asked me, what do you believe has been passed down from our ancestors that has been beneficial to us in our health? And also, what do you believe has been passed down from our ancestors that has hindered us in our health? And to your point, I said it's one and the same thing, which is our resilience and our strength. So to your point, we do so well of not looking like what we're going through, not looking like what we're experiencing, not looking like what we've been through, that it gives the world a false sense of strength and resilience that we know that our tears don't have as much impact and influence as white women tears, for example, right? And so that's a real thing. So I believe the resilience and the strength that we've been given from our ancestors means we have this level of endurance. But it is my opinion, and working in this space for the past 10 years, that we've overplayed our endurance card and that we now need to understand the importance of being vulnerable, the importance of not trying to always have it figured out or try and figure it out, the importance of saying and admitting when we need help. And a lot of times that's very hard for us because historically it hasn't been safe to do that. It hasn't been safe to be soft. It hasn't been safe to easily toggle between your masculine and feminine energy. But we're in a space now where we can't afford to be as strong as we have historically have been. Well, enough of us now have created safe havens and safe spaces for us as Black men and Black women to be more vulnerable. And we need to start taking advantage of that.
Do you think, though, in like the current climate that we're in, that is going to be possible, especially in the States at the moment, with everything that's going and the rolling back of DEI and how that affects the Black community and like this kind of rhetoric that's, you know, this racist rhetoric basically that's coming out from the White House? How do you implement those things when they're very real? And there isn't, you know, people aren't looking for your vulnerability. There's no time for vulnerability. Or, you know, I can't stop working because I need to make this money to feed my daughter or whatever. Like, you know, how do you do that?
Yeah. The invitation is not to compromise your responsibilities. The invitation is to lean more into the faith piece of it because this ain't new for us. Like the headlines might be new, but it's the same message. It's the same story under the headline. So to be honest with you, we are all like, yeah, been new that. We've been new. Y'all weren't here for us. We've been new, right? I don't think it's so new and shocking that all of a sudden we feel a new level of unsafety and insecurity in this space. Like, so how is it going to be possible? We have to be even more demanding about what we need to be well. But in order to be more demanding about what we need to be well, there's a level of faith that has to play a part in the equation. Because faith means I believe it's safe to fill in the blank, right? And most of us are not taking a bigger effort and making more radical change because we don't believe it's safe to. right? And so, the scripture says faith without works is dead, but it's my belief that we've mastered the works and haven't mastered the faith.
Faith.
We think faith is an automatic thing. Faith is a practice.
Yeah.
And so, in order for you to own your health, take back your autonomy and your authority, and don't let this country, these politics, these people, these rules, these laws, these circumstances, and these headlines shorten your life. You have to have enough faith. You have to have enough faith to stop working when it hurts. You have to have enough faith to leave a toxic relationship. You have to have enough faith to be radical about your health despite what everybody else say you should do. That takes faith.
Yeah.
So this is a faith play, right? And so it's about being demanding and understanding that it's safe to. It's our feeling, it's our underlying belief that it's unsafe to need help, that it's safe to exit from circumstances that are damaging us, that's causing us to stay stuck.
Hey, podcast listener, it's Coach Lisa. So you've probably heard me say this on the podcast or somewhere online that my health is my competitive advantage in business. And if you're a leader or entrepreneur or up-and-coming leader or entrepreneur, I want you to imagine what would change if your health became yours too. Since 2016, I've taught a system that has helped hundreds of individuals just like yourself completely transform their health, their energy, and their clarity without burning out or losing momentum in their work. That system is called Farm to Table. It is our signature plant-based coaching program designed specifically for leaders, change makers, thought leaders, entrepreneurs, founders who know they're called to more, but they need their body, mind, and focus aligned to live in radical obedience to that assignment. Inside of Farm to Table, we walk you through the exact framework I personally use to lose over 60 pounds, gain extreme mental clarity, and unlock a new level of discipline and focus in my business and in my life. And here's the part I really want you to hear, because this is huge. This year, 2026, will be the final cohort of Farm to Table that I will personally be teaching. After nearly 10 years and hundreds of transformations, this chapter is closing. So enrollment is officially open now through February 16th. And if you've been waiting for the right moment, this is it. Your health should not be a side project. It should be the foundation. So I hope to see you inside of Farm to Table. Click the link in the show notes to learn more about what you can expect and to join us.
I think everything you said there was so powerful. But I do want to ask this question because I feel as though there's some members of our community, obviously, who may not have a deep-rooted faith system, right, or a belief system.
Yeah.
Would you say the same thing applies to having faith in oneself? So I'm assuming from what you're saying, speaking about Christianity or even Islam or one of the Abrahamic faiths, right? At least there's a faith in a higher power, right? That one true God.
Yeah.
But for those who don't subscribe to that, does that still apply? Or would it just shift the focus to having faith in themselves?
Faith is belief. So
Okay.
absolutely it applies. So behavior follows belief. Everything that you do is reflective of something that you believe. Right? So, if I go to the gym, like Emmanuel, I woke up this morning and meditated and prayed. I knew I had to get on here with you guys at 4 a.m. So that means I woke up at 2 to do my regular morning routine. It doesn't matter that I had a 4 a.m. early morning interview. I was still going to do what I'm accustomed to doing for my morning routine. The reason I meditate and pray every morning is because I believe that it works. I believe in the benefits of it. Behavior follows belief. Everything you do is preceded by a belief. So absolutely, regardless of what your personal beliefs are when it comes to religion or spirituality or whatever it is, we all hold beliefs.
Yeah.
And so our beliefs informs our decision making. So absolutely, like if I believe in a whole food plant-based diet, like I'm a whole food plant-based vegan because I truly believe it increases the probability that I will live longer and I'll live longer without disease. There's not a guarantee. I just have a belief in the lifestyle. Right. And so your belief is what informs your decisions. And so if you want to start making different decisions and seeing different outcomes, you have to start with your beliefs. There's something that you're believing that's preventing you from taking action. There's something that you're believing that causes you to wake up every day and meditate. There's something that you believe. So beliefs is what's at the foundation of everything, and faith is a belief.
Totally agree with you with everything you said there. and also the plant-based whole food eating. Big up all the
Shameless
vegans out there.
plug.
Come on.
Shameless plug.
But I do want to kind of link that to what you were saying about stress and chronic stress and things of that nature, right? How does emotional eating come into this as well? Because obviously,
Forget about it.
yeah, exactly.
Sorry, go ahead. Finish your question.
No, all I was going to say is, how can one regulate emotional eating? And can that also happen in any sort of diet? Because sometimes people feel like, oh, you know what, I'm going to be keto, I'm going to be vegan. That's the best way, and therefore I can do anything I want. But we all know that's not the case. But please speak to that.
Yeah, I would love to speak to that. Okay, so let me back into this question. I'm going to start with, keto, vegan, whatever. I don't care what dietary regimen you select, right? No dietary protocol is superior. We all get to make our individual choices. So I don't think I'm better than anybody because I'm vegan, right? We should never project that. Everything is a probability play. So I'm vegan not because I think it automatically makes me immune to cancer and disease. I'm vegan because the science shows the probability of those things happening are lowered. So when it comes to the diet or the lifestyle that you choose, before we get into emotional eating, we have to understand that it's a mathematical decision, at least for me. The science says that the number one cause of death in the US is heart disease.
Yeah.
The science also has shown since the 1980s that a whole food plant-based diet is the only diet that's been proven to prevent or reverse it. It doesn't mean I'm not going to get heart disease. It means my probability is lower. So my decisions are based on math, not based on superiority, right? And so it doesn't matter which lifestyle you choose. Here's what I'll say about emotional eating, because this is huge. This is major. Number one, we have to understand that our relationship with food has the power to heal us or hurt us, right? And a lot of times, the biggest mistake people make when they have an unhealthy relationship with food is thinking they can moderate themselves out of the situation. So first, let me give the audience 3 indicators that you might have in unhealthy relationship with food, that you might be an emotional eater, really quickly. The first one is what happens when you get into the presence of the food. Let's say you are on a weight loss journey, or you got to trying to get your blood sugar down, or your blood pressure, or whatever it is. You got autoimmune, you got painful periods, you got erectile dysfunction. And like, you know what, I really need to stay away from this sugar for a while, or I really need to stay away from this alcohol for a while. The first indicator that you might have an unhealthy relationship with food is the loss of self-control. You're not bringing it in the house. You're not going out to get it. But when you get in its presence, because you can't control your environment as much, you're at the office party, you're out with friends, whatever, you done told yourself you're going to abstain. But as soon as you get in the presence of it, you lose self-control. That's the first indicator. Second indicator is going to be what happens when you consume it. You've made a proclamation that you're trying to get healthy, right? And you're going to abstain. So when you lose self-control, you instantly feel guilt and shame. So now there's an emotional component here, the guilt and shame. Or because you lose self-control, you're just driving home from work and you stop and get some junk food, but you eat it in the car, or you hide it from your friends and family. That's guilt and shame, right? And then the third indicator that you may have an unhealthy relationship with food is what happens when you actually abstain from it, and that is detox and withdrawals. And so when we have those 3 components present, the loss of self-control, guilt and shame attached to consumption, or detox and withdrawals when you actually abstain from it, is an indicator that you might have a dependency on the sugar, on the caffeine, on the saturated fat, whatever it is, right? And so now what we have to look at is, okay, what's at the root of this? There are 2 things that play a role in like food addiction and unhealthy relationship with food. The first is biological. And this is done to you, which means the food companies have went into a lab, put together the perfect combination of salt, fat, and sugar. We call it the bliss point. And they have put together a formula to ensure that you can't eat just one. Right? And so what happens is biologically, you have a dependence on this food. But the other side of that is when you are unhealed, when you have a low EQ, which is emotional intelligence, not only can you not stop eating it because addiction is engineered into the food, but now you have an emotional dependence on the food. And this is where we typically go wrong because we think I can just moderate this. That
Yeah.
means I'm just going to try and eat less. I'm going to try and practice self control by telling myself, I'm only going to have a drink on the weekends, or I'm only going to treat myself on the holiday. But when you have food addiction or you have a dependence on a substance, you can't moderate yourself out of the addiction. You have no self control. And so when we recognize that we're an emotional eater, the first thing we need to look at is our emotional intelligence. The food is not the problem. We go wrong by trying to solve the problem with the food. When I was studying Alcoholics Anonymous a couple years ago, because I've been working in this space and as a health coach for many years, and I wanted to better understand why our students were so unable to stop with the emotional eating. And one of the things, that came up in kind of studying Alcoholics Anonymous was this concept of abstinence in community, but also this concept of what's at the root of the problem. What they always say in Alcoholics Anonymous is that alcohol is not the problem, it's the answer, which means the question becomes the answer to what? Has alcohol, or in this case, has food, sugar, potato chips, alcohol, whatever it is, has it become your answer to loneliness? Has it become your answer to unfulfillment? Has it become your answer to grief? What is it the answer to? We think the food is the problem.
Yeah.
It's the emotion that's at the root of it. And so emotional eating is corrected by increasing our EQ, emotional intelligence. That means the goal is not to not be sad. The goal is not to not be anxious. The goal is to be able to be sad and be anxious without making a self-destructive decision. That's how you know your EQ went up. That means I can have the natural human experience of being sad, glad, happy, mad, defeated, disappointed, jealous, whatever it is, but I can do it without needing to have a drink. I can do it without needing to have a bag of cookies or crackers or whatever it is, right? And so that is emotion. When your EQ goes up, you can control your response to your emotions. So stop trying to fix the food and fix the heart. Yeah.
So essentially, somebody can still make those decisions to maybe have, a bag of crisp and things like unhealthy foods, right? But as long as there's an intentional decision to do it, as opposed to the lack of discipline, basically you arrive at two different points, essentially.
That's 100%. And why are we eating? The first reason we should eat is for biological purposes.
Yeah.
Like, what does my body and my mind need to thrive? A lot of us are just eating mindlessly. We're eating because it looks good, sounds good. We saw some on social media. Now we want to try it. But our first thing is, have I intentionally given my body and my brain the vitamins and minerals it needs to thrive? First things first. And then if I do consume, because I'm not saying everybody needs to be, I'm sugar-free. I do think everybody needs to be sugar-free. But maybe you can afford to have a piece of sugar every now and then, right? Or, maybe you want to drink every now and then. But the question is, like, what's your level of self-control? Like, I can go months without having a drink, right? I can go to multiple festivities, hang out with my family and friends. And I mean, birthday parties, things where we turning up, right? And I can be like, nah, I'm good. And I'll tell you what did it for me, guys. The thing that helped me to get completely off of sugar and practice massive self-control around things like alcohol or junk food or fast food, pizza, all this stuff, is I gave my health an assignment. So for example, I knew that I had to be here with you guys today at 4 a.m. That means my performance is going to be determined by what I ate yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm very aware how food and sugar and all of that stuff impacts the brain. My assignment on this earth is to do what I'm doing here. Speaking, teaching, this is my gift, right? Every time I used to consume a donut, that was my favorite sugary treat. Every time I used to consume a donut, I would have memory loss and memory lapses. I would have brain fog. So what began to happen is that, forget my waistline, forget my blood sugar, the donut was compromising my assignment to God.
Yeah.
Because how dare me come on here with you guys? We've been planning this interview for a while. I knew it was coming. How dare me be so irresponsible with my gift to eat some foolishness that would compromise how I show up for your audience? This is some people's first time ever discovering me, hearing me, seeing me. How dare me not be my best? And so the thing that helped me abstain from all of this junk that has a hold over so many of us is I gave my health an assignment. Every mic that I get on, every stage that I step on, I have to show up with a spirit of excellence because I believe in what I'm saying, but I have to model that to the people. I can't be up here with brain fog and memory lapses and tired. I've been up since 2 a.m., but I'm on 10. And I have another interview at 10 a.m. today. I have another one at 11 a.m. tomorrow. I can't afford to put junk in my body. I need access to the science. I need to be able to answer all of your questions. I need to be present with the people. So give your health an assignment. What is your health responsible for beyond just your own physical well-being and life expectancy? Like, what's the assignment? And can the assignment afford sugar? Can the assignment afford a drink? Can the assignment afford a bag of crisps? Stop thinking about just your waistline and your own selfish needs, but do the people that you serve, can they afford to have you filled up on foolishness?
Yeah.
It's
Amazing.
interesting. Yeah, no, it is. And very apt for me because I'm on like a journey to become sugar free. That's what
come
I've
on.
been trying to do since August. Like,
Sugar Shadi?
yeah.
Oh, you got to change that
Yeah.
name when you reach there.
No, because I can be metaphorically
Come on.
sugary.
Come on.
Do you know what I mean?
And
But
what's the assignment? What's the assignment on your health? What's the assignment?
yeah, so I've got a condition and I need to kind of lower my blood sugar, do you know what I mean, to improve things. Do you know what I mean? So it is definitely a health concern. And I think like I didn't know, like throughout my life, like sugar has been a constant. Like since I was a kid, like I used to save my bus fare money and buy sweets. That was like my constant, like, do you know what I mean? And it's only until now that I've realized how much of a crutch it's been. Do you know what I mean? So it sounds really weird, but it's like a massive loss. Like you were coming up to Christmas, like this is my party season time. This is where we indulge, and all these things. And it's just like I'm facing it like I can't do this anymore. I can't do it the way I've done it before. To your other point, I didn't know who I was without sugar in my system. I didn't know how fast my brain could actually process things because I thought it was normal. I really did. So I'm hearing you there, but it is very, very challenging. And I think I just wanted to clarify actually one thing, like when you're trying to reduce sugar or trying to go sugar free, do you suggest that you kind of just go cold turkey? Because the doctors that I've spoken to, they're kind of like,
Yeah.
moderation. And I kind of thought, I can't do moderation. I'm not there yet to do moderation. So for me, for the most part, it has to be none. Otherwise, I am going to do those things that you say. I am going to be like, have no self-control. And do you know what I mean? Just eat the whole box of things. Do you know what I mean? And just think, oh, where did they go? Oh, in your belly. That's where they've gone. But like, do you recommend that in terms of like going cold turkey, or is it like a case by case basis, or what do you think?
Oh, no. Okay, this is such a great question. So twice a year, we do our challenge, the 30-day vegan, salt, oil, and sugar-free challenge. And during the challenge, we absolutely practice an abstinence protocol,
Okay.
cold turkey,
Mhm.
right? And so let me tell you why. Okay, so for 30 days, we're walking with people on this plant-based journey, but we go 3 steps further by giving up salt, oil, and sugar, which are all technically vegan, right? But they're all very inflammatory. And our protocol is designed for individuals who have pre-existing conditions, who have health concerns, similar to what you mentioned. And so these are individuals whose body or minds are already compromised. So they're coming in with high blood pressure. They're coming in overweight. They're coming in with depression, anxiety, fertility issues. They're coming in with skin issues, autoimmune conditions. They're coming in with high cholesterol and blood sugar. And so, what the issue has been up until this point for most people is they have truly thought that they can moderate themselves out of a condition by just eating less of the same foods that got them the diagnosis. Microdosing poison is not going to move the needle in reversing the condition. It is going to help you to manage the condition. So, similar how we talked about stress earlier, a management protocol is very different from a treatment protocol. So if you want to manage a diagnosis, then sure, use moderation. Eat a little bit, get a small fry this time. Only have 1 glass of alcohol instead of 2. If you think moderation is going to reverse diabetes, you're in for a rude awakening, right? So when you are already compromised, I can't say this enough because so many people actually believe they're entitled to still eat junk, and your body and your mind are already compromised. You're already feeling the damage of doing that. And it wasn't just one crisp that did it. It wasn't just one burger that did it. You moderated yourself to the diagnosis. And now you really believe you're going to moderate yourself out of it? No. And so we practice an abstinence protocol to give people the best shot at remission or reversal. And we see that happen quickly. We have people coming off of medications, reducing medications, losing weight, mental clarity. Mental clarity is my favorite because when you start thinking clearly, you can start making tough decisions to get out of a chronic stress, for example. You can start being bolder in your life. So I love getting sugar off of people's brains just so they can think clearly, just so they can hear better spiritually. The divine downloads go crazy during our challenge because when you take all of that inflammatory stuff out of your system versus thinking you're just going to moderate it, you give your body a shot at getting clean. And when you actually get clean, the first thing it's going to do is lower your tolerance for the stuff. Because you won't stop eating it, you're just reducing it. You still have a high tolerance for it. But when you take it all out, if you ever decide to reintroduce it, you're going to naturally eat less because you're going to be like, was this always this sweet? Was this always this fatty and oily? But you've built up such a tolerance because you've tried a moderation approach. And so absolutely abstinence. I'll invite you and everybody else to join us in our challenge. It's free to join, right? But it's one of the most powerful regimens because not only are we giving you a protocol, but you're doing it in community with hundreds of other people, and you're doing it under coaching, experienced coaches, myself and my team. And so when you have that type of support, because I'm not going to pretend it's easy, it's not easy, but it's treatment, right? And it's crazy to me that when we get diagnosed with something like cancer, we'll do whatever it takes. But when we're obese or we got high blood pressure, we're willing to manage that for 20 years.
Yeah.
Now, why? Why is that not just as urgent as a diagnosis like cancer, for example? So I want to reinstate the urgency on these lifestyle diseases and encourage people to stop thinking it's safe to consume the same stuff that got them the diagnosis just in smaller doses. So abstinence is the way, but do it in community. Do it with experts so that you feel supported while you're doing a hard thing.
This is so powerful.
Yeah.
So powerful. Can I just say it? Many people in the chat are really just saying, you know what, you're preaching, they feel it, they're just bigging you up. So amazing. I'm really glad that we're having this conversation. Like you said, you did mention about abstinence, the power of, abstaining from particular things. What about maybe, I guess, for those people who have maybe mastered that level and are looking at certain foods to put into their system to then fix issues? Like, what does that look like? And what sort of things would you kind of recommend for different ailments?
Yes. Okay. So in our plant-based coaching program, Farm to Table, we have this thing called like the Farm Daily 4, right? And so 4 things that we want people to consume every day. So the first is going to be plants. And so that is your vegetables essentially. So we want to eat medicine. We want to eat medicine. Like anytime we take supplements like vitamins or these powders and stuff, they're just derived from plants.
Yeah.
The reason they're in a pill or powder form is so that somebody can profit off of them, right? So let's just eat the original medicine. So the first thing that you want to ensure you're consuming every day is some 1 to 2 cups. Let me get specific. 1 to 2 cups of vegetables. So that can be raw leafy greens that you throw in your smoothie, or that can be just a sauteed side of veg, but eat your medicine, eat your medicine, eat your medicine. Every supplement that you're taking that you think is giving you life, if it's quality and made from integrity, it's just derived from a plant.
Yeah.
So don't eat the synthetic version of it. Chew the source. So chew the spinach, chew the arugula, chew the kale, chew the carrots, right? Chew the rutabaga, like eat the plants. The second thing that you want to consume every single day is water, hydration. So this is going to be a minimum of half of your healthy body weight in ounces of water per day. So I know over here we say pounds. I know you guys might do stones but let's say somebody is 140, or let's make it easy, 150 pounds, that means they would consume 75 ounces of water a day.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And so most of us are really, really dehydrated because we're
Mm.
eating so many things that are dehydrating. Like sugar is so dehydrating. It is so dehydrating.
Mm.
And so we're dehydrated from our diet, all the salt, all the sugar, all the processed foods, and we're not drinking enough water. The third thing that we want to consume every day is our antioxidants. So we encourage our students to consume at least 1 cup of berries a day.
Yeah.
Now, in the winter months, those can be frozen berries. In the summer, warmer months, fresh berries, but at least 1 cup of berries a day. That is how we murder cancer cells. And we trying to murder cancer cells around here. That's how we come back from oxidative stress by eating antioxidants. Okay. So at least 1 cup of berries a day. And then the final one I would say would be a minimum of 30 grams of fiber a day. Most people are super fiber deficient. And so fiber is how we're going to ensure we have a healthy gut.
Yeah.
Your gut, your microbiome, we have like these millions of organisms that live in our gut, and they are the powerhouses of our body. Over 70% of our immune system is housed in our gut.
Yeah.
And so fiber is what begins to restore our gut health, and our gut, our gastrointestinal health is really linked to every other system and process in our body, including how our brain works. And so if you want to be more optimal from the neck down and the neck up, please eat your fiber. So that's your whole grains, right? That can come in the form of your oats, that can come in the form of your quinoa, that can come in the form of your ancient grains, that can come in the form of a healthy bread, different types of wheat if you don't have a wheat allergen. But whole grains are so important. Most of us are not getting enough fiber. Fiber comes from fruit and vegetables as well. And so I would say those 4 things: your fiber, your berries, your water, and your plants.
Amazing, powerful. I feel like I kind of do that already, but
Really?
I don't think I drink enough water.
Okay.
And sometimes if I'm having coffee, I guess that kind of does the opposite effect. Yes, there's water in the coffee, but it's very dehydrating as well. You know what I mean?
Very.
And, yeah.
Caffeine is. And what do you add to your coffee?
Nothing. I just have it black.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay,
He
so that's
does.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want.
You eat berries, sorry.
Yeah.
What berries?
I prefer blueberries.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Frozen. It's just easy with my cereal. Just,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And funny thing about the whole fiber thing as well, I noticed the difference. If I don't have my oats in the morning, and then obviously I throw in my berries and stuff, I notice the difference.
Okay.
I need it in the morning. Otherwise, yeah.
Oats and beans and barley grapes.
Oh, yes. Can I ask, before we move on, because to something else, I do want to ask you, what would you say is the biggest misconception about plant-based healing?
That you're going to be deficient, that you have to immediately run out and load up on a bunch of synthetic like protein powder and vitamins.
Yeah.
So I will say that's the biggest misconception that a lot of people have, is like, soon as I stop eating chicken or fish, I'm going to all of a sudden develop a deficiency.
Yeah.
And so the only thing that doesn't come from a plant source naturally is vitamin B12, which by the way, if your levels are already optimal, your body can store it for up to a year. So even if you do our 30-day vegan challenge with us, for example, like you don't have to run out and get a B12 supplement right away.
Yeah.
So we recommend blood work informs your decision-making about supplements. But that's the biggest misconception, is that, oh my God, I'm not eating, animal products. I'm not eating eggs. I'm not eating dairy. So I'm not getting calcium. I'm not getting protein. All of that stuff comes from the plant. Like the animal is the middleman. The animal eats the plant and we eat the animal.
Yeah.
And so we're just taking out the middleman and going straight to the source. And so I would say people really believing that synthetic vitamins and supplements are the way to optimize your health, when it's really eating whole real food and then letting your blood work determine if you need to add something else.
Again, in fact, one last question before we move on, right? You mentioned before about the absence of disease is not the presence of good health, right? Please speak about that, because I do think a lot of the time, when you pretty much said this earlier, when we kind of walk around life, just living life and whatnot, navigating and whatnot, and we for example, have no serious issues, at least on the surface, that manifest themselves, we feel like we're cool. You know what I mean? And then, God forbid, something happens in 5-10 years, but not knowing that that particular thing has been a build-up of that particular thing,
Yes.
right? You know what I mean? So, but yeah,
Yes.
but please speak to that so that we can, I guess, really get that into our psyche.
Yeah, this is so good. Thank you for bringing this up. So, one of the things I say often, like you mentioned, is the absence of disease is not the presence of health, which means many of us believe we can eat foolishness and drink foolishness because a doctor hasn't told us that we have something. You know, my favorite is people who come into our programs and they're overweight, but they don't see overweight as a pre-existing condition. They'd be like, no, coach, I'm healthy. I just need to lose weight, but like, I don't have high blood pressure. I don't have, like, people think excess visceral fat around your arteries is still healthy, right? So the absence of disease, meaning the absence of a diagnosis, just because no one's told you have a diagnosis, just because no one has prescribed you a medication, don't automatically mean you're healthy. Because we don't have a diagnosis, we're really out in these streets claiming we're healthy, right? Like, no, right? First of all, you have no physicality. I'm like, well, let's go, do this 3-mile hike. That's too much, right? Wait, we have no physicality. Our diet is not good. Like, mentally and emotionally, we're struggling because we have all these inflammatory foods on the brain. We can't concentrate and focus. We have memory loss and memory lapses. You are not healthy. You just don't have a diagnosis, right? And so we need to understand that, for example, by the time someone is diagnosed with cancer, to your point, they didn't get it. Like, the day of conception is not the day of diagnosis. You've had it for a while, and now the tumor is big enough for a machine to detect it.
Wow. Yeah.
But because you spent so much time eating carcinogenic foods, thinking because I don't have a diagnosis, I'm healthy, so I can eat whatever I want, we have now allowed those cancer cells to multiply. Because we all have cancer cells sitting in our body right now. We all have free radicals in our body right now. What determines whether or not they're going to turn into a diagnosis 1, 2, or 5 years from now is how we feed our body today.
Yeah.
And so to be so presumptuous that because nobody's diagnosed you with anything today, you don't have to be as rigorous or radical about your health is really sad. I remember going to a track one time and I was running and doing sprints and I was really getting it in. And this guy was like, why are you doing all that? You already small. I'm like, wow. People really don't get, like, you really don't get it.
Yeah.
Like, the health of my heart is important to me. The health of my lungs is important to me. You're thinking the only reason somebody should work out is if they're overweight. No, I go harder now that I'm at a healthy weight. I lost over 60 pounds years ago. Do you know how many statistics I have blew through just by keeping off 60 pounds? Because most people lose it and can't keep it off. Like, I'm winning.
Yeah.
Right. It's not losing it. That's the hardest part. It's maintaining it. I'm like, oh, okay, got it. Right. And so we need to understand that the absence of a diagnosis does not give you free will to pour a bunch of junk in those one body and vessel that we get. And for me, right, the neck down is cool. But to be honest with you guys, my biggest concern is from the neck up, like my brain. Like, I have to create, speak, teach for a living. I'm writing a book right now. Like, that in and of itself is acute stress. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I can't afford for my brain to be compromised. So I don't even eat the way I eat because I'm worried about gaining weight or I'm worried about high blood pressure. I'm literally worried about opening up this doc file and can't think clearly enough for words to get on the screen.
Yeah.
So we have to understand that this stuff is way more than what we see in the mirror, right? Your insides need exercise. They need fiber. They need antioxidants. Your cells need this. Like, you got to take back your power from food. If food has more power over you than you have over it, I need you to stop everything you doing today and repair that relationship, because food has the power to kill you or heal you, and nothing should have more power over you than you have over it.
Amazing. I feel as though you've touched on some of these things already, but you've got some amazing frameworks and signature concepts, right? So if you don't mind, like, just letting the people know, right? Can you break down the trifecta of transformation, please?
Yes. So the trifecta of transformation is a framework that I created several years ago after observing literally thousands of our students, right? Interacting with people and figuring out what are the things that are required? Like, what does the circumstance need to be for somebody to truly change? Whether you're trying to change in your health, trying to change in your career, trying to go from less of an introvert like me to more of an extrovert so I can do stuff like this, right? Like, what's required? And so the trifecta of transformation says that 3 things need to be present in order for somebody to make a significant change. So I teach this to my coaches that I certify in our business accelerator. So I tell them, when you're working with clients and you're trying to help somebody make significant change in their life, the first thing that must be present is willingness, right? Willingness is an inside job. So that means I can come on here and I can preach and I can teach for 2 hours, like lose my voice teaching. But if someone is not interested in losing weight, if someone is not interested in entering into entrepreneurship, like there's no willingness there. It doesn't matter that I have a system, a blueprint, a framework. Like I'm not on that right now, right? And so there has to be a willingness, because what happens, I'm going to give you an example for it to make more sense. We have people that we love and we want them to change, right? And so what happens is we have our spouses, we have our parents, we have our family and our friends, and we really want to see them live a different life. Like, we want to see people to stop smoking and drinking. We want to see our family and our friends and our parents to eat better, but they might not have a willingness. They're like, I don't care what you say. I'm going to have my coffee with 18 sugars, my bacon, and my grease every morning. I'm going to eat my favorites. Now, I understand that the doctor said I got this, but I'm not willing to do that. And so this is really for when we're trying to change people, they have to express a desire. They have to express that, right? So there has to be a willingness and there has to be a desire, right? And let me make sure people understand the difference between the two. Desire means I want to lose the weight. I want to get off the medication. I want to quit the job. I want to be in a healthy marriage. That's the desire. But willingness means only after I'm aware of what it takes, I'm now willing to do the work. Sometimes where we go wrong as coaches or people that just love people and want to see them change, we think desire is the same as willingness. And so they express, okay, yeah, I actually do have a desire to have financial freedom. And we're like, okay, well, here's what it's going to take. You're going to have to manage your money. You're going to have to know how much debt you owe. You're going to have to set up these type of accounts. You're going to have to stop buying this every day or every week. Now, once they hear what it takes to get to financial freedom, once they hear what it takes to actually reverse type 2 diabetes, that's when they make a decision on willingness. See, most people think people are willing once they express the desire. You can't say you're willing to do something until you know what it takes. And so if I say, and so you come into my 30-day challenge and I say, all right, let's get it. You say you have a desire to be off of metformin for type 2 diabetes. And you're like, yes, coach. I'm like, okay, no problem. Here's what it's going to take. It's going to take us going whole food, plant-based vegan. So we need to take all saturated fat and cholesterol out of your diet from all animal products and dairy. I'm also going to have to remove oil and refined sugar from your diet. I'm going to need you to eat this many plants. You're going to need to work out this much. Now I have to say, are you willing? You have the desire, but now are you willing? So those are the first 2 things in the trifecta of transformation. Willingness comes after awareness of what it takes. Okay. Now, the third thing that we need, the final thing, is capability. Okay. Desire and willingness are an inside job. So I'm your coach. You're the client. Desire and willingness is on you. It's my job to educate you on what it takes, but then you have to, are you now willing? Okay. But capability is an outside job. So that's like, I think I saw somebody in the chat said, I'm going to need help to do this. What they're saying is I'm not capable, right?
Yeah.
And they're acknowledging I'm going to need a coach. I'm going to need somebody to hold my hand through this. And so desire is the first, willingness is the second. Capability says I'm taking an honest assessment of my knowledge, skills, and ability and admitting what I know how to do and what I don't know how to do. So the third thing that somebody needs to change is capability, because you can have a desire to own your own business. And after I tell you all it takes to be a full-time entrepreneur, and it's a lot, then you can still be like, yep, I'm willing to do all that. I want my own business. I'm passionate about this. I think God has called me to this. I'm like, okay, cool. Here's the first thing you need to do. I need you to come up with a marketing strategy for your product and offer. I need you to decide who your audience is. I need you to create a back-end system. Now they're like, I don't even know what that stuff is. So they lack capability. So now they have to get attached to an expert.
Yeah.
They need somebody who can give them the knowledge, skills, and ability to execute. They have the desire and the willingness, but they have no idea what a CRM is, a client relationship management system, right? And so now they lack capability, and capability is oftentimes an outside job. Desire and willingness is an inside job. When those three things are present, then we see a significant increase in the chances for real change happening.
Wow. And these principles can be applied to all walks of life, pretty much, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you have the desire, the willingness, and the capability? Absolutely.
Radical obedience. It's a powerful concept.
Ooh, you better talk my talk.
What does it mean to live a life of radical obedience, complete surrender, intention, all those wonderful things?
Oh my God, it's my favorite. So, hey y'all. So this you have no idea how in love I am with radical obedience. And so radical obedience is a term that I coined and trademarked to represent doing what God is calling you to do, despite the presence of fear and uncertainty. Okay. One of the challenges that a lot of us have in life, and that speaks to why a lot of us are not where we want to be in life, is because we're simply being obedient to God, but not radically obedient. And there are 4 tenets to radical obedience. That's actually, Emmanuel, what I'm writing my book on right now.
Okay.
Radical obedience. Yes. Okay. So come in 2026. So let me break down really quickly the 4 components of radical obedience. See, this is why you can't have sugar, because you never know what you're going to be asked, and you got to remember all your stuff.
That's it.
Okay. So really quickly, there's 4 components that make sure obedience radical. Okay. The first one is that when God tells you to do something, like that means you've been getting an intuitive pull to start your own thing, or tell your story through a book, or start a podcast, or go plant-based for your health condition, whatever it is, right? The first tenet that makes sure obedience radical is that it is complete and not partial. That means that you do all of what God told you to do and not some of it. So a perfect example of this is when people come into our 30-day challenge and we're like, okay, we're going vegan, salt, oil, and sugar free. They'd be like, Coach, I can do most of it, but that sugar, I don't know. Now they know they need to heal the body. They know they're struggling with a health challenge, but they're willing to only be obedient to about 90% of the protocol. Like, what did God tell you to do? Obedience, radical obedience is complete and not partial. That means you do all of what you're told and not some of what you told, right? And a lot of us, we're skating in life because you're doing most of what God told you to do. But you know, he told you to work on them finances too. You're doing all the easy stuff. You're doing the stuff that's comfortable, that's fun, right? But in order to be successful, do everything you're told. So obedience becomes radical when it is complete and not partial. The second thing that makes obedience radical is that, this is one of the hardest ones for people, it is immediately and not eventually. Many of us have assignments that's been sitting on the shelf for years. We were, during our last challenge, I had a young lady, she purchased an Ultra VIP ticket. She upgraded to VIP. And with the Ultra VIP ticket, you get a one-on-one coaching session with me. So we're in the coaching session. And I said, okay, for this challenge, we need to give your health an assignment. We can't rely on willpower. I said, so what's the assignment that you're getting healthy for? And she's like, I really want to start a nonprofit for young teenage girls. I said, ooh, you said that quick. I'm like, how long you been wanting to do that? She said, for years. She said, God told me to do it years ago. And I said, why haven't you done it? Fear, blah, blah, all these things, resources, don't have the time, all these excuses. I said, let me get this straight. You've been disobedient for years on this assignment. God told you to support these young teenage women years ago and you haven't executed. So radical obedience is immediately and not eventually. That doesn't mean the business starts tomorrow. That means you start working on it. That means you actually put effort and energy and intentionality toward the thing that God told you to do. Quit playing in his face. So radical obedience is, I'm not going to do it when I get around to it or when I think it's safe because I'm making fear-based decisions. Radical obedience says, okay, God, you told me to have this tough conversation with my partner. I'm scared as heck. I don't know how this is going to turn out. We might end up splitting up, but I know I need to speak up about not being happy in this relationship. I'm not going to delay that for another 6 months. Obedience needs to become radical. It is immediately and not eventually. Okay. So that's the second component. The third component of radical obedience is we must do things with a spirit of joy and not resistance, a spirit of joy and not begrudgingly. So that also means when you show up on assignment, when you do what God is telling you to do in this season, you don't come dragging yourself into this 30-day challenge mad about having to give up caffeine and sugar to save your own life. You do it joyfully. You like, I'm gonna bring the best energy and the best attitude to this experience. Don't come in my challenge with foolishness. Keep your camera and your mic off if you're gonna be bringing down the energy, okay?
Come on.
That means you show up happy to please God on this day, okay? So that means you do things with joy and not reluctance. Meaning, because some of us, we'll be obedient, but we're gonna complain the whole way, right? We're gonna be obedient,
Come
but
on.
we're gonna make a post on social media about it. Like, shut it down. Like, do what you're supposed to do. Like, stop it, right? Like, God told me to do this. Let me just be grateful for the opportunity to serve, okay? So the third thing that makes obedience radical is that attitude, joy and not reluctance. And then the final one that graduates your obedience to being radical obedience is you do things with innocence and not expectation. So most of us, we're like, okay, God, you told me to write this book. You told me to start this podcast, right? You told me to start this YouTube channel. All right, I'm gonna listen to you. You told me that you've been making my stomach hurt every time I eat chicken. You telling me to let the chicken go for a while. Okay, God, I'm gonna do it. However, when you do it, you scoreboard watching. You like, well, I mean, if I ain't lost this weight in these 30 days, then I'm just gonna go back to chicken. I mean, if 800 people ain't bought my item and I ain't a multi-millionaire by the end of the year, then throw the whole business away. You scoreboard watching. So radical obedience is I do it with innocence and not expectations. That means I don't put my own expectations on what God told me to do. I'm gonna do it, and I am not gonna demand a certain result by a certain day and be like, well, if I step on this scale and I ain't lost as much as everybody else lost, then forget it. I'm having a drink. Whoa. Right? Like, you do it with innocence. You do it as if there are no expectations, right? We just do what we're told. So when you get that intuitive pull, when you get that divine download to make a move in a certain area of your life, relationships, career, health, finances, healing, personal development, whatever it is, you do it complete, not partial. You do it immediately and not eventually. You do it with joy and not reluctance, and you do it with innocence and not expectation. That's radical obedience.
That's powerful, man. That is so powerful. I wanted to ask you, because I guess one of those things where, like, all of us will say God works in mysterious ways, but at the same time presume to know why he tells us to do a particular thing. Like you said, and start score watching and things of that nature. I was gonna ask something though, with regards to, I guess, knowing what your assignment is, right? I remember hearing Dr. Miles Monroe back in the day say something along the lines of, whenever somebody says God's told him something, all it means is he's got a vision, right? Something just come into his head. How does somebody make that distinction between something that could be tied to their personal wants and something that is actually a divine download? How do you, I guess, make that distinction?
Yeah, it's so funny. I was just talking about this yesterday. I was doing an interview for something, and I was saying that about like being able to distinguish between God's voice and our voice. Is that what you're asking, right?
Yeah.
So something I prayed for many years ago was discernment for this exact reason, right? God, give me the discernment to know, when it's you, when it's in your will and not my will, right? And so one of the first things that we can do to set the environment to increase our discernment is by cleaning up on the inside.
Yeah.
So we hear better, not audibly, but spiritually. We hear better, right, when we're clean. Meaning, when I meditate in the morning and I pray in the morning, or I just go for a walk in nature, right, I can tell the difference between something being downloaded into me versus my own thoughts trying to creep up, my own limiting beliefs trying to creep up, right? And so it's an intuitive knowing, but you start that by being clean in the vessel in the inside. Because let me give you just a very like biological example. When we eat like a lot of processed foods, right, and it has a lot of food dyes in it, or it has a lot of sugar in it, or it has a lot of MSG in it, all of those things are called excitotoxins. And excitotoxins causes hyperactivity in the brain. Okay. And so one of the best ways to improve your hearing and your discernment is to get excitotoxins out of your diet.
Mm-hmm.
Take the caffeine out for a while, right? Because it's giving you dirty energy. Try and fuel up on clean energy. Get everything out that might cause an unnatural hyperactivity so that you can steal the mind. Because prayer is talking to God, meditation is listening, right? And so what I've had happen multiple times on multiple occasions in the years that I've been meditating is when I meditate, that's when I hear, right? And I'm like, okay, write the book on this, right? Create the program on this. And it's a feeling where you know, this is not me coming up with ideas based on my lack mindset. This is not me coming up with ideas based on feeling unworthy or that I'm not enough. Because the other thing, like, so once you clean out and you get clear enough to hear and have better discernment, the other thing that you can use to determine whose voice is whose is the belief. We spoke earlier about beliefs, the belief that's underlying the decision. So that means, like, am I deciding to stay in this relationship because I really believe this person is the one and that it's super workoutable? Or is this my low self-esteem making a decision? Is this me believing that I'm not good enough or lovable? It's too late for me. I've been married to this person for 40 years and I'm just too old, or it's too late. Or like, you also know the underlying parts of you that are undeveloped. So is your self-esteem an issue? Are you self-conscious? Do you have fear-based decision-making? Do you think and lack all of the time? Also, being honest with yourself about the truth is, I'm not making this decision because I really think this relationship is workoutable. The truth is, I'm definitely afraid of being alone. I'm staying here for comfort. And so having those honest conversations. So every couple of months, I do something called the Clarity Lab. And it's like this 5-day chronic stress focus group. And in that Clarity Lab, our next one isn't until March of 2026. But I teach this process called excavation. So excavation is asking yourself why a minimum of 7 times so you can get to the root of the reasoning. And so one of the ways you can start determining whether or not your decision making is what God wants you to do or what you want to do is coaching yourself by asking yourself why. And if you get to the root and it's really a genuine holistic reason, then it makes sense. But if it's based on, well, you know, this is just the way I was raised, I don't think it's safe to be strong, or I don't think there's enough of, I don't think there's enough people that'll buy my thing, or I don't think enough, or I just think it's too hard. I can't see myself living without sugar, but I'm telling myself I'm gonna retain it because I can afford it. Like, you just ask yourself why multiple times and coach yourself. Now, it's better to get coached by somebody who can see your blind spots. But if this is something that you want to practice, like, right away, it is coaching yourself through 7 layers of why, but then also cleaning out the vessel so that all of that hyperactivity in your nervous system is calmed down and you're not making erratic decisions and you're actually making intelligent, informed decisions, and that discernment will begin to increase.
Brent, you had a question from Dr. Amani. Dr. Amani is somebody in the chat who is also a family member of the show. And she says, can you tell us about protein? I can't lie, I have a pretty decent diet, but the thing that has kept me on meat, except the taste, is wanting to hit my protein goals for the gym.
Yeah, absolutely. So protein comes from plants. So when we eat animals, we're just eating the middleman, which means, because protein is just made up of amino acids. All the amino acids are in the plants, right? So it is very, very, very easy to get optimal amounts of protein without having to eat animal products. But where most of us have been like steered wrong is, number one, thinking we need more protein than we actually need. That's number one, right? Because we hear these like super crazy high numbers, right? Let me tell you when you need that much protein. You need like an exorbitant amount of protein if you are like a competitor in the fitness world. One of the ways that people manipulate their body to do something that it cannot naturally do on its own is by consuming way more protein than that biologically needs. So we need to understand the biological requirement versus the requirement because you want to manipulate your body for something it can't naturally do on its own. And those are two different things, because when we start taking protein either eating way too much animal products or getting it from like a powder, that can cause a lot of damage on the kidneys. And so we're overworking our kidneys by trying. That's why a lot of bodybuilders, there's a pattern in the bodybuilding world of kidney failure and heart failure because of all of the supplements, including the protein. And so let me say, I've been vegan for over 10 years. I do not take a protein powder. My entire team is vegan. My entire team is plant-based vegan, and except for one person. So 4 out of 5. And we don't take protein powders. We don't take supplements for that because, and let me tell you, this is not a because I don't think I need it thing. This is blood work shows it. So I want to be clear too. I am not trying to say, nobody ever needs this stuff. I'm saying we go to get blood work and it says, no, your protein is fine.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so first things first, if you're considering giving up some animal products for a while, then get blood work to be reassured. Don't just listen to me and be like, okay, she said I shouldn't need it. I don't know what all your conditions in your makeup is. So if you want to be reassured, just good blood work to show that your protein levels are optimal before you start a vegan diet. Then go back 30 days or 3 months in and just get proof that, wow, I really did get enough by not eating animal products. Just go get proof because it's possible. But you have to make sure that you're a clean plant-based eater. So that means not all of this junk food, not all of this synthetic fake cheese, fake meat that's full of more fat, but not necessarily full of vitamins and minerals, right? But I get plenty of protein from like my soy milk, my tofu, my lentils, my chickpeas, right? And so it's very easy, but I understand because we've been taught that you get it from animals and people think when they take out the animals, they're going to be deficient. Yeah. But again, common misconception, all protein comes from plants. The amino acids are in the plants. They're not in the cow.
Okay, we've got a question from Zyme, but before I go to Zyme, in fact, let me ask that question as well. Zyme says, do you have recommendations for people affected physically by high stress environments? Examples, noisy, messy, cold places.
So those are physically stressful environments. So a recommendation, I don't know if I understand the question. A recommendation to what? Get out the environment, a recommendation to restore the body after you've been in that environment. I would love some clarity on the question.
Yeah. Okay.
But a lot of things start from the inside out, right? One of the things I learned early on in my mindfulness practice, right, is that we assign meaning to things.
Yes, 100%.
Right? And so that means that a noisy or cold environment is stressful for you because you say so. Right? For somebody else, it could be comforting.
Yeah.
And so how are we assigning meaning to this? If it's not serving us, then the way to get out of a chronically stressful situation, whether it's environmental or circumstantial, is an exit strategy. So if you need to get out of the situation because you're just like, this cold, noisy, whatever environment is just not for me, then you need an exit strategy. So that is a plan of how you're going to get out of that environment. So instead of just being in a circumstance or in an environment and hating it forever, what's the plan?
Yeah.
And part of the reason people don't make plans is because they have fear or emotions that are informing their decisions. And so when I teach people how to create exit strategies from chronic stress, I tell them, if you have stress with no strategy, you are avoiding making decisions. So my answer to that question would be, make a decision. That means make a decision if you're going to stay or make a decision if you're going to go. And once you make the decision, that doesn't mean you leave that day, but that then means you start putting plans and things in place to exit. So if you have stress with no strategy, you have a decision-making problem.
Well, okay. Mr. Black Boy Joy says, how does Lisa suggest incorporating her plant-based principles into traditional African and Caribbean food?
It's very possible. And that goes for a multitude of cultures with people I've spoken with over the years that say, like, listen, like my culture, like we eat, like I think I was talking to some Jamaicans and they're like, yo, you want me to just stop eating goat? Right? Like you crazy. So it doesn't matter what your culture is. We typically all have some animal-based traditions and like signature dishes that make us happy. So my answer is number one, like know why you're doing it. Is it health challenges? Because the first thing is like be informed on how to correct and treat whatever you're dealing with. So if you're going to be approaching this lifestyle, then understand the dangers of continuing on what you've been doing, right? Because I could say the same thing for just like Black African American culture. Like, what
Yeah.
about my soul food, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still making a choice not to consume it because the probability of me having a disease goes up. And then the other thing, more practical, is going to be recipes and researching. So there are plenty of individuals, right, in the African and Caribbean cultures who practice, take a plant-based approach. And so there are ways that you can get recipes that can mimic or the taste or sometimes even be better than what you're used to. Is that we just have never tried it, right? And so, like, for example, for when we make greens in like the Black African American soul food, right? So we got our collard greens, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of having like the smoked meat in there to give it that smoky flavor, I remember years ago discovering a vegan chef who was using smoked mushrooms. And I'm like, this is amazing, right? And so sometimes it's just a lack of knowledge or access. Like, have you done research to find someone in that culture who's like, I'm going to show you how to recreate the dishes that we're used to without having to use all of this animal fat, all of this saturated fat, all of this oil. So I'm not suggesting you don't enjoy your African or Caribbean dishes, but how can we get the same flavors, but decrease the chances of clogging our arteries?
I have to confess, right? I am suffering from a bit of acute stress because I'm aware that I do have to wrap up the interview. But hopefully you can help to alleviate that by promising to come back again another time, because this has been so helpful.
Honestly, it
This
has
has been so helpful, man. Like,
it will be my pleasure, and I still owe you guys an in-person visit because I know that's what we really want.
Come on, yes, 100%. When you come to London, please let me know. 100%, man.
I will.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure I can speak for everyone in the room and everyone in the chat as well. Thank you so much. You blessed us so much with your wisdom, your knowledge, your understanding, your patience as well. It's been an absolute honor. And yeah, man, I pray that God will continue to lead you on your purpose and equip you with all the tools necessary to carry out the assignment.
Yes. Thank you. It's been a pleasure, guys. This has been wonderful. Thank you for being so engaged, doing your research. Thank you for the great questions. Thank you to the audience. Y'all was lighting it up over there. So I appreciate y'all so much. And I hope to be over in the UK soon.
You tuned in today because, like me, you refuse to let your good become the enemy of your great. You're not settling for good health when optimal is well within reach. If you're ready to go from good to great, visit lisaangelsmith.com to learn more about our plant-based health coaching program, Farm to Table, and our plant-based business accelerator and coaching certification. But before you go, if you enjoyed what you heard today, please consider rating and reviewing this podcast. Until next time, remember, radical obedience is still undefeated. Stay obedient.